Hi everyone, my name is Charlie and today I have my March wrap-up. I don't have many books to show you for this video because a lot of them were library books or e-copies, but two books that I won't be discussing because they were for the BookTube prize and will be getting talked about in another video are Where You Come From by Saša Stanišić. I will look up how to say this properly for that video, and translated by Damon Searls, and Khalil by Yasmina Khadra, and this was translated by John Cullen. The first book that I read in March was a buddy read with Emily of Novell Novels, and that book is A Storm of Sisters by Michelle Harrison. This is the fourth book in the Pinch of Magic series and sees the sisters go with their grandmother to visit a relative in a frozen northern land. And whilst there, they hear tell of a ghost staying in the hotel that they're in and mysterious rooms. And if you see this girl in the window, then a loved one will die. There are fortune tellers, there is mystery. This book was a lot more dark than the previous books in the series, and I appreciated that. I did figure out what the twist was going to be quite early on in the tale, and I mentioned this to Emily. She had disagreed with me in the beginning, but by the end she'd come around to my way of thinking, and it turned out that I was right. That isn't a spoiler, by the way. When we consider fiction, most fiction has a twist. It's one of the things you're told to write in there nowadays, and whilst I noticed it, I don't think the younger reader will. I was very impressed with this book. This would probably be at the top if I were to rank this series. I didn't get on with the second book, but the other three books I've read in this series have been some fantastic middle grade. I think that it's great that we have such a strong relationship between the sisters, and I think that it was shown to its best potential in this book. I like that we had more of a focus on the relationship between the three sisters in this book, and they didn't necessarily come back down to just the archetypes and stereotypes that the author had given them previously. The magic was there, but they didn't necessarily rely on their own magic in this book, and I like that this was more of an adventure mystery story, and it was very much self-contained. This also appealed to that part of me that has a great nostalgia for the book At Bertram's Hotel by Agatha Christie, in that this was set in the hotel. It had all of this mystery and also this link back to a crime that had previously happened that was still being felt by the workers of this hotel many years later. I like that these books have a timeless quality and you can't necessarily tell when they are set. Whilst we can't place them in terms of a historical period, it does help to add more to the sense of threat within these books, that they can't necessarily rely on technology, they can only rely on their sisterhood, that pinch of magic, and their own ingenuity. And I think that this is very much a standout series when it comes to middle grade fiction. Next, I read The Sentence by Louise Erdrich, and this book sees Tucky falsely imprisoned for a crime she didn't know she was committing in the beginning of the novel, before coming out of prison, getting a job at a bookshop, and ending up haunted by the ghost of one of the customers that she did not care for. I thought this book was astounding. However, it does have a lot going on within its pages that can lead to the criticism that the book should have been separated and different stories utilised from everything that was going on within its pages. The title, The Sentence, refers to many different things. It refers to a sentence within a book that the protagonist sees as a curse. It reflects the time that she spent in prison, and it reflects on books. There are some great characters within its pages, and I agree with this criticism that there is a lot going on. However, I liked how the author utilised current world events and discussed the impact that these world events would have on the characters within the novel. In doing this, I feel like it shows that the personal can sometimes be overtaken by the global. And in terms of this novel, what is going on in the protagonist community has an effect on the novel and sees the events within the novel almost take a back seat. But I liked that the world events actually had a direct impact on the events within the novel and almost caused this shift in the narrative, which at first I was against and I didn't care for. But as I read the book, I began to realise that maybe the author was saying something not just about the way that world events had impacted her as a writer, but the way that they had impacted the world of the novel, and it gave it this very current feel. And I very much like this book. I liked the books within this tale, the way that the impact of books was discussed. I liked the ghostly aspects of this novel, and I just think that Erdrich did a very good job as a writer to pull all these narrative threads together and to still contain her story and maintain the momentum of it. Which means that 2 for 2, I have liked Louise Erdrich's works now and I will go back and reread some of her back catalogue. I think that the character of Tuki contains multitudes. I just wholeheartedly appreciated this novel. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Next, I read The Exhibitionist by Charlotte Mendelson. This was a buddy read with my friend Charlie, formerly of Charlie Brooke, but Piccolo's mum on Instagram, and we didn't like this. I do have a vlog in which I discuss it, but this book is about a family. You have Ray, who was originally his wife. He was her art teacher, and she has become the figure in the art world who is more sought after. Ray is abusive. He is a misogynist. He is a right royal bastard. At first, this book was filled with tension, and it continued throughout, and yet the book came to nothing. It was like if you took all the toxic qualities of the Aldridge family from the Archers and put them into one house. It was an Emperor's New Clothes scenario in terms of plot. Chapters would be inside the heads of characters, yet you still had secrets kept from the reader, and it made no sense because a person does not go through life thinking, oh, but that's a secret, and not reveal the secret in their own mind. They will think about the thing. Yet the author kept spoon-feeding different details throughout the narrative because she didn't want to reveal all these different secrets, and it just didn't make sense in the grand scheme of things. It just had a very poor resolution as well. The climax was bad. It didn't come to anything. It felt like all this tension for nothing. You either needed an explosion or something. You needed something to actually happen within the book, and nothing happened, and it just felt like a complete waste of my time. Then we have The Island of Missing Trees by Elif Shafak, which is a brilliant exploration of grief and how no matter how much a person tries to protect their children from the past, this can actually cause them more harm because the child just wants to be able to help, and the child is able to recognise that you have your sadnesses and you are shutting them out of your world. It was a generational. There we go. That is the word, generational. It was interesting to see the difference between the generations of the Daphne and Constantinos. Again, names elude me in this book. Not my favourite of the books that I've read for the Women's Prize, but I did like what was being said about grief. I will link my vlog to this one so you can get my original thoughts on this, because I will admit that details of this book have slipped my mind. The author knows how to write a yarn, and I got to read more about a portion of the world that I did not know about. All these weeks later, I don't necessarily remember it as well as other books that I read in the month. Then I read Blessed a Daughter Raised by a Voice in Her Head by Warsan Shire, which is a poetry collection, and I got this from NetGalley. I don't think that the e-edition that I read did this book any favours because it did not have the formatting correct. So all I had were the words, and I did not get to see how They were placed upon the page in order to figure out how they sounded in relation to one another. Therefore, I don't feel comfortable giving an opinion on this book when I wasn't able to explore the collection in the way that the author intended. Next, I read Cold Enough for Snow, and I believe this was by Jessica O. Maybe. Again, this was a NetGalley book that I got because quite a few people on BookTube had been reading this. It suited my sensibilities as someone who read Rachel Cusk last year and found that I enjoyed that style of writing. This is about a woman trying to reconnect with her mother and doing this by both of them going to stay in Japan. It's great, isn't it? I know that I liked this book, liked the pace that it moved at. It was slow and it took its time, and I thought that it was a good portrayal of a child trying to reconnect with their parent. It also had some beautiful passages of prose that made me want to get the physical edition and have a go at rereading it. Then I read Build Your House Around My Body by Violet Kupersmith, and I have a vlog about this. But as soon as I read it, it went to the top of my ranking in terms of the Women's Prize because it had everything that I look for in fiction. It had mystery and magic and a different mythology and than I was used to, and I just thoroughly enjoyed this one. This was the one where I was like, if you just settle into the narrative and allow it to move along and be swept up in it, then you're going to have a more enjoyable time than being one of these people who tries to unravel everything. I was reminded of David Mitchell in the telling of this one, blending dark fairy tale with crime noir, and yeah, I'll leave a link to that vlog. Similarly, I enjoyed this one, Sky Day by Leone Ross. I have a vlog for that too that came out 2 days ago. I don't know. I don't even know when I'll be putting this video up, but this one, Sky Day. I was conflicted about it. It's a very vibrant, colourful book that follows many different characters living on this island of Poppy Show, and everyone has their own magical ability. It's a very fast-moving, bouncing narrative, and I didn't know whether I enjoyed it, I didn't know whether I disliked it, but the more I think about it, the more I would like to go back and reread it. I don't think that it was the best novel in the world. However, I did enjoy the time spent reading its pages, and I think that the author just had this brilliant voice for storytelling, and again, I can see why this book wouldn't be for everyone, but it definitely seemed like a Charlie book. Then we had Summerwater by Sarah Moss. This was a disappointing read, and the less said about it, the better. Same goes for The Devil's Footprints, which was a book that I thought that I was going to thoroughly enjoy, really liked the first 80 pages, and then the ending just kind of scuppered everything, and I don't think that I've forgiven it yet. But I do have a vlog for those two books. In fact, I have a vlog for a lot of these videos, so I'll leave links to the videos where I discussed about these books with much more depth. I hope I did anyway, in the description. I also read 600 pages of the Books of Jacob last month. This is now finished and I'm putting a vlog together. I DNF'd the final revival of Opal and Nev by Dawnie Welton, but I did listen to a considerable amount of that audiobook, and I do think the audio production has done a fantastic job. It's just that the book is not a tale for me. It's not something that I care to read about or know about. It doesn't suit my sensibilities. However, I have said to Charlie that should this book make it to the Women's Prize shortlist, then I will continue to listen to the audiobook and see how everything turns out. Them's the books. If you've read any of these books and would like to discuss them, then please feel free to do so in the comments. I hope that you have enjoyed this video, and until next time, that is all.